It is NAIDOC Week, and the theme this year is Because of Her, We Can. And today we're taking a look at the role Indigenous women play within the pastoral industry and how they're now shaping this once male-dominated sector. Tricia Button is the Deputy CEO of the Indigenous Land Corporation, an agency which manages 14 pastoral holdings and more than 70,000 head of cattle nationally. She says while female Indigenous staff represent a small percentage of the ILC's pastoral workforce, their contribution to the business is huge.
So we've got Indigenous women in a range of roles in our agribusiness space, including supervision and mentoring type roles. But in our agribusiness space, we have 13 strong Indigenous women contributing to everything from the day-to-day operations of some of our really large pastoral companies. Our pastoral arm in the ILC runs something like 70,000 cattle and I think about 12,000 sheep nationally. So to have Indigenous women on stations helping lead that and lead some properties that are quite influential in the northern beef industry is a significant achievement that we celebrate here in the ILC. Of our Indigenous workforce in the agribusiness space, almost 10% of them are Indigenous women.
Are there particular challenges, particularly from a cultural perspective, that Indigenous women face in these roles, particularly out on stations where there is still quite a strong connection with local community and country? Are there particular challenges that they face in those roles?
There are, and I think they're challenges that many Indigenous women face in, a lot of Indigenous businesses, but particularly in land management, where there is such a cultural thread through the nature of the work. A lot of our land management work is really culturally and based on traditional knowledge and practices. But having women on stations, they provide a really unique service, particularly where we've got young Indigenous trainees that are away from home or are living on a station that is part of their cultural estate. To have Indigenous women there helping them settle in and have them undertake their training and, into employment, but maintain that cultural tie and that cultural connection in land management activities, I don't think can be understated. It's a big challenge, but we've got some really remarkable women doing some, amazing mentoring and mothering, if you like, supporting young Indigenous trainees in our agribusiness space on some very remote pastoral properties.
How would you like to see Indigenous women shaping the pastoral industry into the future?
I'd love to see some station managers being Indigenous women, and I think we are not too far away from that. The ILC runs a business management advisory project which supports a pastoralist network that Indigenous businessmen and women have set up in the top end. Part of that, we run cattlemen and cattle women's workshops. 40 to 50% of those people attending those workshops are women. So I think there is some momentum and some drive, and I don't think it's far away before we will see some very prominent Indigenous women leading a very strong cattle industry for Indigenous people in the north.
And do you have, as an organisation, particular targets for female employment?
We do have some hard targets around Indigenous employment, either that are direct that the ILC employs and employment outcomes that we enable through funding land acquisition and land management. We are exceeding those targets. We haven't yet turned our minds to setting targets on Indigenous women, but it's certainly something we should and could pursue.
The NAIDOC Week theme this year is Because of Her, We Can. What does that mean to you?
Look, on a personal level, it means for me, us paying homage to our elders and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers that have gone before us and who have guided us and protected us through some very, tough social policy experiments and acts against our people. And I just love the fact that, for this year's NAIDOC, we are really putting those women up on a pedestal and, to see women on social media paying homage to their grandmothers and aunties, and that has been wonderful.
Yeah, it certainly has been wonderful. That's Deputy CEO of the Indigenous Land Corporation, Tricia Button, and she was speaking there with Carmen Brown.